Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing a Starfleet Battles Tactics video on Maulers. Maulers are really good weapons. They're very limited in use, and whenever I'm running a campaign, I always design and designate them as a fleet fire support item. I have a friend who's a Klingon player named Bobby. He loves running Klingons almost exclusively. Bobby, when he's putting a fleet together, he uses Maulers, because the Klingons have them as well. Maulers and drone ships, along with other ships in a battle group, and those ships are designated as fleet fire support groups. And those little groups are designated as fire support groups, and the idea being they can put directed fire on an enemy unit, probably a base or something like that, because it's going to sound bad. In ship-to-ship combat, Maulers really aren't that great. They have a very limited firing arc. Look them up in the book, you'll see what I'm saying. Very limited firing arc. They hit really well, but you have to be like right on them to get the maximum effect, and range 0 or 1, and they only have a range of 10. So let me just jump in here. Maulers are a particularly devastating weapon. It is essentially a beam of intense directed energy. It is a Romulan weapon, which was copied by their allies, the Klingons and the Lyrans. And the Andromedans use a functionally identical weapon. Andromedans can feed power to their Maulers directly from their power absorber panels, which makes them exceedingly powerful. Andromedan Maulers are nasty. Essentially, a Mauler is a big energy cannon with a ship wrapped around it. So they get the cannon and they build a ship around it. It's quite nasty. Most Mauler ships are loaded with batteries. These batteries are connected to the Mauler by black lines. The Mauler cannon itself is designated by a thick black arrow. Later Romulan ships, the Klingons built theirs into D6 hulls. So you got 2 Mauler cannons, one at the front of each engine, and batteries all through the ship. They kind of gutted D6s and built them into there, and it works pretty good for them. Lyrans have a functionally similar weapon, twin Mauler cannons. Romulans have KRs, and they have a KRM version, which is the same as a Klingon KR. D7M, which is a Mauler. But originally, they were built in the old... They were Falcon Maulers, built kind of like a warbird with lots of batteries and stuff. And the newer ships, the Sparrowhawk Maulers and the Firehawk Maulers, Flamehawks and like that, they're not as effective as Maulers, but they can actually duel with another ship fairly effectively. Their Mauler cannons aren't as powerful because they don't have as many batteries to put in, because the ship's only so big, and they have to put other stuff in there like phasers and plasmas and other things like that. So the later ships are a little more effective in duels, but the earlier Mauler ship, the Falcon, is a better fleet fire support weapon, because once you get the enemy where you want them, a Mauler can just drive over and just turn them into scrap iron, just like that. The Mauler cannon does great damage, especially at ranges 0 and 1, and good damage out to range 5. The maximum range is 10. And the Mauler cannon does damage proportionate to the amount of power you put in. So if you put 10 points of power in at range 0 or 1, you're going to do 20 points of damage. Out to range 5, you're still going to get that 10 points. And a Falcon has 36 batteries. So without hurting the engines, because you can tap the engines and other power systems to put power into the Mauler, but half of whatever you put in engine-wise, power system-wise, gets destroyed. So you don't want to do that unless you have to. 36 points for a Mauler at 0 range 1 does 72 points of damage, and that's nasty. I don't care who you are. And that's just the batteries, not the engines and like that. The Mauler weapon does not usually miss unless electronic warfare considerations add enough to the die roll. So if a Mauler has 0 in ECM and the enemy has 6 points of EC if the Mauler doesn't have anything in ECCM, and the enemy has 6 points of ECM, that's a shift of 2. So you roll 2 dice, 2 to 10 hits. So without electronic warfare, Maulers generally don't miss. The firing arc of the Mauler is extremely limited, but it can be fired every impulse as desired. You put 1 or 2 points in, and you can keep firing at every impulse. I find that a waste, because the purpose of a Mauler is to go over and pound somebody. If you're firing at every impulse, you have to stretch the battery power out, so you're not doing that much damage with each one shot. The whole purpose of a Mauler is to turn somebody into scrap iron. So once you get somebody battered in a weak shield or a down shield, the Mauler shows up right there and pounds them. That's the point of a Mauler. Firing at every impulse, I guess it's good for taking out drones and things, but to me that's a waste of a Mauler. Andromedan Maulers, again, can tap their power absorber panels to power their Mauler cannons, so when they, instead of shields, Andromedans have power absorber panels. So their Maulers essentially can fire your own damage back at you. It's nasty. Maulers are subject to shock rules, and that's in the book. Eventually, if you build up enough shock value, shock points as it were, in your ship, you can break down. Engine and reactor power can be used to power a Mauler, but half of these systems get destroyed, so it's better just to stick to the batteries. In a pinch, you can stick power directly from the engines, but like I said, half it gets destroyed, so don't, that's iffy. Now, here's the good parts. I love Maulers. They make excellent fire support ships and can turn an enemy unit into scrap iron pretty quick. As part of a fleet or a battle group, they are devastating. As an individual ship in duels, not so much. They do great damage, but they lack many of the ship systems most captains rely on in duels. Their limited firing arc forces them to maneuver in a specific way, and the opponent knows this. The few times I've actually won a duel using a Mauler were times when I could stay cloaked and use surprise to inflict maximum damage at close range. Then I ran away to recharge my batteries and returned to hit them later. It's exceedingly rare that any opponent worth their salt will allow you the luxury to recharge and return to hit them again. Most of the players that allow you to do that aren't very good. So, Maulers aren't good in duels. What I have found works pretty well is if you have the Mauler. For example, the original Romulan Mauler is called a Falcon. It doesn't have any phasers until the refit comes, and that only gives it rearward firing phaser 3s. So the only weapon that ship has is the Mauler cannon. You got mines and nuclear space mines and things like that, but as far as the weapons goes, it's just the Mauler. So what I try to do is put it in a situation where another Romulan ship is distracting your opponent, and the Mauler can sneak in behind him and get right close and pound him. Other than that, Maulers are difficult to win with, especially in duels. They're built for fleet engagements. That's all there is to it. So when you get the opportunity, check them out. And again, have fun running Starfleet battles. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.